Welcome to our web exclusive. I'm Mike Montecalvo, along with Eyewitness News analyst Lieutenant General Reginald Centracchio. We're going to talk right off the bat, General, about that breach on the Brooklyn Bridge. And we saw it earlier this week that someone took the American flags down and put white ones up. They're talking that possibly those flags were bleached to make it look white. But the real question is, how in the world did a group of people get up on that bridge and do that?
They apparently just didn't do it that particular time frame. I'm convinced that they probably looked at the security plan that was in place, looked for weaknesses, and leveraged that. You just don't walk into a place where you have high security, and that's one of the highest places across the United States because it's an icon. So when you do that and it happens that way, you can rest assured they've monitored it for a while. They've looked at some of the weaknesses, perhaps some of the patrols, maybe some of the physical barriers, and they overcame them. And I think that's probably very true for most places that have security. There's always a weak link somewhere, and they found it.
Well, the Deputy Commissioner for Intelligence and Counterterrorism, John Miller, doesn't believe that this is terrorism. But a question that you can bring up at this point, though, was this a test for maybe something down the road? I
think that's a strong possibility. I don't think this particular incident was an act of terrorism. But certainly if you're looking to find a better way and means of doing something, this was a test. And it could, in fact, be a precursor to some future scenario, not necessarily at that particular bridge, but the overall security plan for New York. And I think that's what we need to really be careful about.
General, who's responsible for security on those bridges?
You know, it's something similar to the bridge authority we have here in Rhode Island, but normally the police, in fact, New York has a secretary of security. And I believe that falls within his responsibility. But that would be a composite effort between local police, state police, and other functionaries that have the responsibility for maintaining security for the bridges and other critical areas.
You talk about bridges. We talk about this in the wintertime, that the state police sometime will make the call on whether to close the Newport or Jamestown Verrazano bridges because of wind and ice. You know, let's bring in the hurricane barrier, too, and the safety precautions that are put in place in the bridges and the barrier.
You know, Mike, there is a list that I can't disclose what they are, obviously, because they're classified. But there are significant places throughout the state that are determined to be high-value targets to be able to either have a high impact on the public safety issues or certainly the economy. The bridges are amongst those. And when you look at what do we do in the event that you have a higher level of consideration because of intelligence, then you'd obviously take action to make sure you have either the Coast Guard there, state police, or some other agencies to be able to have better security than an everyday travel across and back and forth on the bridge.
Well, we're in the hurricane season. Obviously, the barrier is tested all the time to make sure it works. How often is the barrier and the bridges and other places in Rhode Island tested for terrorism?
You know, they have exercises specifically for the bridges in the Port of Providence and Newport Harbor and so on. They have exercises that are designed to be able to test the response capability and communications. Primarily communications is the link to whether a plan is effective or not. Whether in fact you can have communications with all of the agencies that have a somewhat of an ownership or have a part of the overall responsibility for physical security. And that's tested on a frequent basis. The barrier, of course, that's supposed to be tested on a frequent basis, and it recently went back over to the Corps of Engineers versus having the City of Providence take it. And that's for several reasons. Money to be able to maintain it, and personnel to be able to exercise it.
All right, General, let's switch topics for a moment. The downed Malaysian airline plane, the United States now taking a stand saying Russia had no direct impact with that flight being brought down. Why do you think the change of tone here?
I think because they didn't have any direct evidence to tie Russian troops to that particular launch. At the same time, I think we recognize that those launches and those missile systems were given to the people that are obviously rebelling to have a closer relationship with Russia. So they trained them, and that's not direct involvement. But they did give them the equipment. Who actually pushed the button to fire it, I think you can say Russian personnel did not do that.
All right, General, we have 20 seconds. Flights in and out of Israel canceled. How long is that going to go on?
Probably over the next several days until Israel can actually guarantee, El Al specifically, that it's safe to fly in and out of Israel.
All right, General, as always, thank you for your thoughts. Thanks for watching.